Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight for the Ross County game I'm joined by JP Mason, Colin Watt and Anthony Haggerty. Welcome to the show. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good evening.
All good. Good evening. How you doing?
Yous were all smiling emphatically just before we went live there. Yous are all in fine fettle. Colin, first of all, I'll ask you in relation to the team line. What's your thoughts on that? A few changes being made. Once again, Lennon continues to tinker.
Yeah, I'm not so confident about going back to one up front. I really don't think that works, especially when you look at it. You've got 5 centre midfielders in the middle of that park. I don't know how you work a diamond. I don't know which one you play up top. How are you meant to get a partnership to play the 4-4-2 if you're playing 5 midfielders? I don't know. Personally, they're still stuck with the 2 up front, especially the fact that Ross County are going through a bit of a defensive crisis at the back. I think they've got a couple of players out injured. They obviously can't play Helge as well. So they've got a bit of a makeshift defence there tonight. It's been a good chance to get that partnership going. I think for me, one of the talking points, though, is Barkas. Where's he gone? We've got Connor Hazard on the bench tonight. So what does that say? Is something going on? Is he injured? Has anybody heard anything?
I've certainly not heard anything in relation to an injury, Colin, but again, it's just that whole bizarre situation around our goalkeepers this season, isn't it? One minute you're the third choice, the next minute you're the first choice, and so it goes, and the cycle continues. I did feel that Hazard was kind of hard done by, I've got to say, after the cup final. JP, some great points here by Colin. What's your thoughts yourself on that lineup? Again, it's one of the ones when it's announced and you think, like Colin has said, how do you fit all those players into that formation? Surely you have a style, you have a shape, and the players are chosen to suit. It doesn't seem to be the way this evening, though.
Well, I think he watched the same game as we did on Wednesday, with Ajeti struggling really to make an impact, and I did wonder whether or not Ajeti would start tonight or not, and he obviously decided to not start him and not persist. And probably it's one of those ones where he's hoping that the good players turn up. I thought that was quite strange that Marvin Bartley revealed that, and on the TV when he said, it was quite a few occasions, Lennon would just be like, right, on you go, see how you get on type thing, and that is bizarre. I know it maybe is a bit old school. I know Martin O'Neill used to, drop the team, basically off a little bit of scrap paper in the dressing room, maybe like half an hour before kickoff or whatever, and things like that. So I mean, I know that he might be pulling a bit from that, but yeah, again, you're looking for big performances from guys like Rogic and Christie, because they're in that sort of danger position in the field where you're looking for them to impact. But like Colin says, it doesn't really stack up in terms of the formation. And you're just wondering where all these guys are going to play. So we'll soon find out.
What you're saying there, JP, it is quite startling when you hear it, but we've heard it now from a couple of his ex-players, haven't we? We've heard Joe Ledley alluding to that, and then previously Kelvin Wilson as well. Anthony, you have this idea that, we watch the game, we observe on, the games, and I'm sometimes knocked back by the sheer knowledge of tactics by some of the contributors to ACSOM, some of the things I see on social media. And it makes you start to think, wow, they've got a really good understanding of how this game works from a coaching perspective, from a tactical perspective. And then you hear that at this level, that Lenny, it's like, right, lads, same team as last week, crack on. Work it out for yourself. It's slightly concerning. I would expect if you weren't into that kind of data, if you weren't into that style of management, you would rely on somebody else within your backroom team to do that kind of work. I think O'Neill probably relied heavily on his team. Is that still a massive concern, particularly going forward for Celtic, Tony?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I'm going to apologise for the unmitigating disaster that is my hairstyle, right? I'm not down here for the night. But going back to the team, you look at that team, and I say that the other week I was talking about roaring, free scoring, never boring, right? That kind of thing. But you look at that team and you think, I think the last 2 games are anything to go by. That's an uninspiring, misfiring, perspiring team. It is, isn't it?
Superb, Tony.
You look at it, but you hope it's not. But you look at that team on paper and you think, where's Sorrow, right? Colin said, where's the goalkeeper, right? Things like that. You know, you've got three attacking players on the bench against supposedly a makeshift defence the Staggies have got. Right? Now, you've just alluded to it there. If we can see these things, how can they not see these things and say, you know, he's treating that game like a dead rubber? You know, it's just like a dead rubber at the end. It is close as you can get to a dead rubber at the end of the season, but you still want to go and beat them. You don't want to beat them. You want to beat them handsomely and build up some kind of momentum for the next season, or to put up some kind of performance for any new manager looking and saying, I'll keep him, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. You know, what's happened to Sorrell? He's got, how many midfield players are there? And see this square peg and round hole with Christie playing up front and stuff like that. Get some more wick. You know, players have got a natural position for a reason. Play them there. Stop tinkering with the team. Stop. Basically, people have said it. You know, it's tantamount to gaslighting and trolling the Celtic supporters. He is, in that unmitigated disaster comment, he's insulting our football intelligence.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, but he is. And that's what frustrates the fans. Because during a lot of this season, we've been able to see things that obviously the management can't. So if we can see that, why can't they? I get back to it. What are they seeing? Why is that starting 11 being put out tonight? Why that in particular?
Because, Anthony, it's not as bad as it's been made out to be.
Well,
stop saying it's so bad. It's not that bad, Anthony.
Yeah,
Come on.
Be positive. Be positive.
Well, we have heard that all season, JP, and I'm going to ask you before I get into the unmitigated disaster comment that Tony alluded to. There's yet another Celtic jersey over your right shoulder this evening, and I was trying to put a date on that because it's one of these leisure wears or a training shirt, isn't it? You were basically informing me it was your second Celtic jersey, is that right?
Aye, it was my second jersey because it was not green and white, and I was allowed to wear that basically because it was a bit more inconspicuous in the West Lothian area, and my chances of getting my head kicked in and down the park were substantially less than should I be wearing a green and white hoops. So yeah, I think it's from maybe about 92-ish. I think the Celtic font gives it away in terms of. You know, I think that was the rebranding at the time when they did that kind of using that Celtic lettering. So it's from round about that time, and I just thought I'd dig it out. So you're looking at a potentially 28-year-old top there, which is frightening.
It's just
JP,
screaming.
You ready for this? I was just going to say, JP, you ready for this? That top's older than me.
Oh no!
You've got shirts older than Colin Watt. That's brilliant.
I don't think they're ready for this jersey. Is that what you're saying?
The thing is, it just screams 1990s to me, JP, because it's over branded, and the 90s were all about over branding. You know, even when Liam Gallagher walks out at Main Road, he's wearing that horrific Umbro top that they started redoing under Pretty Green, bizarrely enough. Tony brought it up, so let's talk about it. The comments that Neil Lennon made, it's not the unmitigated disaster that everyone makes it out to be. What's he talking about? Celtic's season. I find that astonishing. I think the language that you used, Tony, was spot on. It's insulting. You're insulting our intelligence, Neil. I mean, I could give you the roll call of dishonour, if you like, this season. Everybody knows what would be included in it. It's very difficult. You're talking about pulling positives. The only positives I can take, really, is things like the performances of Welsh, Sorrell, Turnbull, kind of struggling after that. So I find that a whole lot of nonsense, JP. When you hear these kind of comments, do you sometimes wonder to yourself, do they see what we see? Does it matter to them the same way that it matters to us? Because it has been an absolute disaster.
Yeah, I think he's desperately trying to put some sort of positive spin on it. But I mean, if you look how far it's gone from last season, and you know, and certainly when you've seen like tweets, and there was one on the Facebook page as well where somebody had racked up all the things and just went, look, there was this, you know, the exiting the League Cup at such an early stage, you know, the Europa League, everybody knows what's happened. You don't need me to go over it, but you also don't need somebody to try and put some sort of positive spin in it, because I can't get positive spin from this season, from the fact that we are not there supporting the team to all the things that have gone wrong. there's no way I'm digesting what's happened and then coming away with, oh well, actually it's not been that bad. It's been terrible. It's been terrible, and everybody knows it. And I don't think there's no glossing over anything, and not many Celtic fans will buy that.
No, you're right. Now, Tony's already made mention of his lockdown hair. It's something that a lot of us are suffering, Tony, me included. You basically just need to start cutting it yourself. Colin looks pretty, it looks quite tight, though. You've had your pencil sharpened. Colin, do you live with a barber or something?
No, just very handy with the clippers.
Right, okay. What's your thoughts on these comments then? Because as I actually said before we came on live, let's stick to the football before the game. But it was brought up and it's massive. And I actually said to try and balance it a wee bit. I agreed with Neil Lennon's comments about Nicola Sturgeon. I actually did. I mean, the situation with regards to us only playing the second game that we weren't able to play the other week there against Aberdeen last midweek. We were hit hard because of the indiscretion of one of our players, Aberdeen, as well with the 8 players. Yet other clubs, i.e. Rangers, aren't getting the same kind of treatment. So I agreed with Neil Lennon on that point, and I try to be as balanced as possible. But with the unmitigated disaster comments, what was your thoughts?
I think I put a tweet out right away, and I just said it feels as though the club's just finding several different ways to troll the fans this season, as if they're trying to put a propaganda in front of you to tell you, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Everything's rosy in the garden of Celtic over here. I don't know what the aim of this is. Now, the players know exactly the circumstances that's going on this season. They're the ones that's going out and putting the performances in. At the end of the season, the fans will then make their decision on whether they thought the season was good enough for them to renew for next year, how many of them actually still have that emotional attachment to the club to renew, and who actually thinks that they need to take a stand so that a situation like this can't happen again. Now, everyone goes on about, the 10. Take that out of the equation. If you just merit this season on the season that it has been a complete disaster from start to finish. There's never been a point in the season where you're going, we are challenging for this title. We are the team that needs to be beat. We've never been in that situation. Even in the run-up to the first game against Rangers at Celtic Park, they were the favourites because of the way that they were playing. And you saw that the way they came out and attacked us. The game in January was the best chance to sort of reset the balance. And you saw that Celtic came out, attacked really well, but then the defensive frailties showed, and it just summed up the season as a whole. You can't come out and say that this season has been anything less than a disaster. We're out of so many tournaments, the Champions League, the Europa League, the League Cup, and realistically the League. There's not going to be a Scottish Cup this year. They've already started to make plans that will kick on next season. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be the first trophyless season in a long time at Celtic, and that's not a disaster. Come on, you've got to set higher standards than that. Celtic have been this team that's been dominating Scottish football for 9 years. Us as fans can admit, that's it, the period's over, we have to rebuild, we have to start again. But for the fact that the club can't understand that, that tells you the disconnect between the fans and the club right now.
It's deeply concerning. Tony, are you going to come in there?
Aye, Saatchi and Saatchi can put a positive spin on this, right? Basically, it's been football, Paul John, but not as we know it. That's this season in a nutshell.
I know.
Paul's just alluded to that. Right? Why should you not be challenging? Why should Celtic not have won the 10? I've been told to calm down, by the way, in the chat. Yeah. Why? I mean, someone has to sit me down eventually and say, we lost the 10 because, right? Because I've used the word before, it's unfathomable how Celtic have not turned up this season, and not even just not turned up, they've not challenged, not at any stage. And Rangers have been able to run away with this at a canter because they've not been given a challenge. I mean, it's incredible. It really is.
I watched on Friday, it was like, sometimes how people like Liam Gallagher say they would love to watch their own band, so sometimes he did. So the MTV Unplugged session, just sat there and watched them. I watched ACSOM on Friday, it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. The discussion between yourself and Jim, and it was brilliant to watch. And obviously there was a guest host on there as well. And I was interested. It was very good. I think he needs to do it more often. But Jim Orr made a great point, because he's a numbers guy. Jim's a numbers guy, isn't he? And he made a brilliant point in relation to the fact that we had to be at the top of your game. If you're just going to talk about the nuts and bolts of who's won what in terms of the points this season, and he was looking at previous seasons where, we wouldn't have been in the running, even having won the league, we wouldn't have been in the running this season. But the big point you made, Tony, and I agree with you, there hasn't been that challenge. So when it's neck and neck, it's a completely different ballgame. And that's where the nerves can kick in, particularly when, you don't have that overbearing support at your home ground, be that 50 or 60,000. And that's been the biggest kind of frustration for me, because we don't really know just how good the league winners are going to be, because, they are going to win it out of canter. And I don't think, even if we do start to look at every nuance of everything that's gone wrong outside of Celtic, we can't say they're not going to be deserving champions, because they clearly will be. They're going out and they're grinding out results. They're going out against teams like Ross County. I mean, they battered Ross County just a few weeks ago in one of John Hughes' first games. But just before you spoke there, Tony, Kinky Cadete. I mean, I've just got to bring that up simply for the name and the avatar. Kinky Cadete. If this season hasn't been an unmitigated disaster, then I cannot wait to see what Lennon has in store for us next season. Now, you're nodding your head there, Tony, and now you're shaking it. JP, can you imagine that is what is in store for us next season? Is that a possibility? Surely not.
Just on the sort of Rangers thing. See, when we won the League Cup in November 2019, was it November or December? December.
Yeah.
December 2019. I remember that night having a really, really horrible feeling in the back of my mind, thinking they're going to get one back on us for this, and it's going to be a bad one, and we know what's coming. We know what's about to happen in terms of the league, because there's not a lot we can do about it now. And I just remember thinking we've really got away with one tonight in terms of how we basically not robbed them, but we kind of did rob them of that cup. And I thought, if ever they were going to win their first trophy as a club, it would probably, and if the footballing gods went in their favour, then to win their first trophy as a club and doing this to stop us winning 10 in a row, then that's clearly what's happening. So I just wanted to bring that up as something that I remembered just from that night, because despite the partying and having a great laugh that night, singing Merry Christmas everyone on the mic in the Beechwood Tavern, if anyone was there, they will have witnessed a very raucous rendition of that with added expletives inserted at the appropriate points. But yeah, regards to Lennon being manager next season, there's a lot of things that are coming out that are making me want Neil Lennon, gone by the end of the season. There is a very, very small part of me, right, at the back of my mind, that actually would like him to win the title back, because I think that's possible. People will go, "Oh, you're talking nonsense. That's a crazy thing to say." But there is a small part of me that would like that. But it's the same small part of me that, it's a small part. It's not my overriding thing, because the sensible thing is clean house, get new management team in, and adopt a completely new structure going forward with the CEO in place and everything else, and actually be a progressive football club for once. But that's just, I think that's maybe just the mad Celtic fan in me that has got that little bit of how good would that be. But he's not going to get that opportunity.
Earlier this season, I started seeing the term Lenny Ball. It's not something I think I was aware of before this season. And Kevin Graham and I had a really good discussion one night when we were covering a game. What is Lenny Ball? And then you start, hearing from players who have played under him, Lenny Mark 1, that would be in his first tenure at Celtic Park. And you start to build up this impression, because let's be honest, I mean, you get wee tidbits from certain ex-players and all the rest of it. And in actual fact, this popped up in the WhatsApp yesterday. Danny McGrain, Colin, I don't know if you were there when he was telling us this story about how Lenny used to treat Effie Ambrose in the dressing room. Mm-hmm. Now, I think most people listening in would probably treat Effie the same way after some of his performances, but his approach was basically the hairdryer treatment. It was just to bawl and shout at Effie Ambrose. And there was this one occasion where he turned around to Danny and says, right, Danny, your shot. As if Danny was to go in for round 2, and Danny was like, I wanted to pick him up. I didn't want to knock him down, kind of thing. So that type of approach seemed to work, but I'm now looking at it probably deeper than I ever have before. Did it? Did it actually work? Did it only work because we didn't have that challenge? I mean, he was able to go out and strengthen time and time again whenever it was pretty clear that we needed strengthening. But again, we didn't really have that challenge after his first full season. And people can say, well, you can only beat who was in front of you. But we did have that advantage financially, whereby we could go out and strengthen. And when you look at players like Joe Ledley and Kelvin Wilson coming out and saying, there wasn't really much of a game plan. It was down to the quality of the players that we had, and we could figure it out. Times have changed. I mean, even in that short space of time, and the makeup of our squad has changed. I mean, JP talks about that game, and I wanted to mention Julien because I think, we've asked the question quite a few times. This summer, I didn't think we could afford to lose, I guess, what I would call the 3 high-profile players in Ayer, Edouard and Christie. Now Ayer has to be kept. I mean, Julien was a match winner that day, JP. I wasn't at the Beechwood for that game. It was the Hearts game when we clinched the treble, I think it was. Is that right? I lose track of the trebles. But that was the Hearts game when Eddie scored the 2 goals. And I was in the Beechwood that day. But the Ayer situation now has heightened, Colin. We cannot afford to go into the new season. Obviously, Duffy will be sent back. Welsh will have loads of games under his belt, which is great. Julien's going to be out. Surely we can't sell Ayer. I mean, that's going to be a disaster if we do that.
The defence is something that I've went on about on this podcast for, I don't know, best part of 12 months now, about how much we need to strengthen that defence. We should have went into this season with at least 4 natural centre-backs in that position, and we didn't. I mean, there was talk about, Duffy's in, we can sell Ayer now. That was never going to be the case. Celtic needed at least 2 centre-halves in that transfer window there, and we barely got one. I mean, if you call him a centre-half for his performances this season, you're a braver man than what I am. But it's as if we're never quite there. Now, I can't remember who spoke about it. The same WhatsApp chat we've been talking about just earlier. And we're talking about, have Celtic ever properly replaced Mikael Lustig? The amount of loan signings that's come in at right back over the last couple of years, we've never ever fully replaced him. Jeremy Frimpong wasn't even there as a replacement. He was in as a protege for going forward. And it came to a point where we had to play him the same way that we had to play Kieran Tierney. There's just no forward planning in that area. And if you can build a solid defence, that's the kind of thing that wins you championships, that wins you games, that helps you progress in Europe. And just going back to what you were saying on the whole Neil Lennon thing, the whole shouting and bawling and the kind of hairdryer treatment, you have to gain the players' respect first before you can even attempt that. That is a Fergie trait. Fergie is one of the best managers of all time. You walk into a room and Ferguson's there, and instantly you respect the man because of what he's done. What would you respect Neil Lennon for of what he's done in management? How can you just expect that treatment? At Hibs, he fell out with Cam Berry. Again, giving him that rough treatment. At Bolton, he fell out with a player, I can't remember his name, he was a forward, Gary Medine. He fell out with him. It was in the press all the time. At Celtic, he done it with Chris Commons, and he's done it with Lee Griffiths so far this season. He's done it with other players. You can't just demand respect, you have to earn it. And there's nothing that Neil Lennon has done as Celtic manager that means that you instantly command respect, especially if you're not developing these players on, if you're not properly coaching the team. And that kind of style of management it's so Jurassic. It's long past its sell-by date.
I like that, Jurassic. That was brilliant. Well done. That was a great description.
Well, what we were talking about on Friday, wasn't it? The analog digital thing. I mean, go back to the defence. Celtic have not a good defence since Denier and Virgil van Dijk. Right, Martin O'Neill, first thing he did when he came in, he bought 3 massive guys for his defence. He bought Mialbi, Valharan and Baldi. Right, might not be the greatest on the deck, but you were never getting the better of them in any circumstances because he would just kick absolute lumps at you. They'd bump you, but you knew you were in a game, right? You did, tight as a drum. That defence was great. Denier and Virgil van Dijk were silky, right? Silky footballers and made defending in this country look really easy. Celtic have not had a central defensive pairing like that, or a central defence since those two have left. It was many years as that. Because Rodgers has had his problems with defence. Put guys in and stuff, you know. Got away with it because the team, collectively, the team were pretty good, you know. And so, and it's as Colin said, we sticking into that season with 4 recognised defenders, left back, right back, 2 centre halves. I spoke about it a while ago. See if the people at the top don't know where to get them, we'll get them. Go and tell us to watch any league in Europe, and we will recommend you 10 defenders for every position that they want somebody for, and I guarantee we'll come in under budget, and they'll be good, right? Because we think I think we know a wee bit about football. I like to think we do. Everybody on here knows quite a lot, actually. So if we could do that, why aren't they going and getting other Bobo Baldis, other Jusval Harns, other Deniers, other Van Dijks? Because they're there, right? It goes back to your recruitment. The recruitment's not there. Clearly not there. Because we should have had all these building bricks in place for a season that mattered to everybody. Well, it mattered more to the fans, as we've constantly said. You know, and they just weren't tooled up. They weren't geared up. Didn't take the challenge from Govan seriously enough till it was too late. And then they got into the stick or twist situation and decided to stick for whatever reason. And now we have the situation where the possibility where this guy could stay in situ. Possible. I think it's highly unlikely because the fans will just not accept it. Because the groundswell of opinion is they just want him gone. But I can see where GP's coming from. There is maybe a few that would like to see maybe Lenny wrestle the title back if he is. But you wouldn't trust him to wrestle the title back, would you? That's the thing. The Celtic fans have lost all faith and they've lost all trust.
I have to agree with that. That's a really good point. As much as I would like it to happen, I don't know if I trust them. I don't know. And it's far too big a gamble to be like, all right, well, we'll just keep Neil Lennon and hope that happens, because the chances are that it won't.
That's the old romantic in you, JP.
Oh, yeah. What Colin said about respect. The respect for Neil Lennon has been lost on players because maybe he has shouted at them too much that they just switched off. And you've watched it at various times this season. There's been close-up with certain players, and you've thought, he's not listening. The manager's giving him whatever, and he's just like, nah.
I think it comes down, Tony, to the makeup of the squad. If you compare the squad now to what it was first time round, the makeup's completely different. I mean, we mentioned Julien, Edouard and Cham, Frimpong. This is a different generation of player that we're now dealing with. How do they react to it? The players are just coming onto the park, but before they do, JP, I never asked you, what in your mind is Lenny Ball?
It's kind of organised chaos, isn't it? It's organised chaos, and it can be at times exhilarating and other times absolutely baffling. But I've witnessed plenty of Lenny Ball games, you know, like St Johnstone away, Kilmarnock away at the tail end of last season when we were absolutely blitzing teams. That first half at St Johnstone was pure liquid Lenny Ball. The Cham header, you know, from the passing move. I mean, that was unbelievable. You know, that was great. Nobody was anti-Lennon at that point. There was no red Lennon avatars at that point. Everybody was fully on board the Lennon bus. It's just this has been a horrible set of circumstances that have just spiraled out of control, and everybody's to blame.
Yeah. Now the teams are on the park. That has been a very enjoyable return for myself back to the ACSOM fold. But well done to Colin Watt, Kevin Graham for holding the reins for a couple of days. And Colin, you're going to be doing it far more often. I don't know if you're agreeing to that, but that is the plan. But yeah, let's go and watch the action, and we'll be back at half time. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Thank you to Colin, JP and Tony for joining me again on A Celtic State of Mind.